At the family reunion, I walked in with a smile, ready to reconnect. But no one looked my way. No hugs, no warm words, just polite nods as if I were invisible. I sat quietly listening to the laughter that never included me. But when the $2,500 bill for that fancy banquet came out, suddenly every head turned. Every eye found me. Tell me, have you ever been overlooked, only to be noticed when money entered the picture? Stay with me, because this story has a twist they never saw coming. Family reunions used to be my favorite. Growing up, they meant potluck dinners, kids running through the yard, and late-night stories around the fire. But things changed. Over the years, some cousins grew wealthier, flashier. They arrived in polished cars, dressed to impress, and conversations started revolving around vacations, investments, and big homes. Me? I was the one who stayed behind. Steady job, modest life, nothing worth bragging about. I didn't mind until the reunion came around and I felt the shift. This year it was held at a downtown banquet hall. White tablecloths, chandeliers, and a catered spread that cost more than my monthly paycheck. I walked in, hopeful, clutching a small dish I'd made at home. But as soon as I stepped through the door, I felt it. The chill. "Hey," a cousin said quickly before turning back to her circle. Others glanced at me, smiled thinly, then carried on. No one asked how I was. No one pulled out a chair. I found myself at the end of the table, sipping water, listening. They compared cruise itineraries, new cars, stocks. I had stories too, about hard work, about raising kids, about small joys. But no one asked. Dinner passed slowly. I tried to join a few conversations, but each time I was brushed aside, as though my words didn't matter. By dessert, I felt invisible. Then the waiter slipped the bill onto the table, a sleek leather folder, placed neatly in the center. The room went quiet. Someone opened it, glanced inside, and gasped. $2,500. The laughter faded, chairs creaked, eyes darted around, and then, one by one, those eyes landed on me. Suddenly, the person who had been invisible all evening became the center of attention, and in that moment I realized being ignored hurts. But sometimes being noticed comes with its own sting, because now they weren't looking for my stories. They were looking for my wallet. The silence after that number was almost deafening. Forks clinked against plates. Conversations stopped mid-sentence, and all the chatter about cruises and new cars evaporated into thin air. Uncle Joe cleared his throat. "Well, that's a bit more than I expected." He pushed the folder a few inches away, as though touching it might burn his hands. A cousin laughed nervously. Maybe they overcharged. Someone should double-check, but no one reached for it. I sat back, watching as the folder sat there like an unwelcome guest at the table. Finally, Aunt Denise spoke up. "We should split it, right? Everyone just pitch in." Heads nodded quickly until someone whispered, "That would be almost $100 a person." The nod slowed. "That's, a lot," another cousin muttered. "I didn't plan for that." One by one, excuses began to surface. Someone had left their wallet in the car. Another only brought enough cash for parking. One cousin mentioned a pending paycheck. The more they spoke, the clearer it became. No one wanted to pay. And then, like clockwork, their eyes turned to me. I shifted in my chair, feeling the weight of every gaze. My cousin Mark leaned forward, smiling too wide. "You've always been responsible," he said. "Maybe you could just cover it, and we'll sort it out later?" Later. A word I'd heard too many times in life, always meaning never. I looked at him steadily. "Why me?" The question hung in the air. Mark stammered. "Well, you didn't order much, so maybe it's simpler if—" "That makes no sense," I cut in. "If anything, I should pay the least." A ripple of discomfort spread around the table. Someone coughed, someone else reached for their phone, pretending to be busy, but no one argued. No one wanted to admit the truth. They had ignored me all night, but now they wanted me to save them. The irony wasn't lost on me. For hours, I'd been invisible. But the moment money came into play, suddenly, I was the star of the show. I leaned back, folding my arms. "Funny," I said quietly. "I don't remember being part of the conversations tonight. But now when the bill comes, I'm the first person you look at." A few heads dropped. Some shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But no one spoke. The waiter returned, standing patiently nearby. "Will this be together or separate?" The question sliced through the tension. Everyone looked at each other, waiting for someone, anyone, to take the lead. And in that moment, I made a decision. If they wanted to see me, then they would. But not in the way they expected. Because sometimes the best response to being overlooked isn't anger or silence. It's showing people exactly what their choices look like when the bill finally comes due. The waiter's question still hung in the air. "Will this be together or separate?" No one answered. My cousins shifted in their seats, staring at their plates. Aunt Denise dabbed at her mouth with a napkin, avoiding eye contact. Uncle Joe pretended to check his phone, though I knew his eyesight wasn't good enough to read the screen. Finally, I pushed my chair back just enough to make the legs scrape against the floor. The sound cut through the silence. All eyes shot to me. "I'll take it," I said evenly. A collective sigh swept through the room. Shoulders relaxed, a few muttered, "Thank you," under their breath, though no one truly looked grateful. They looked relieved. The waiter nodded, taking the folder. My cousins immediately dove back into their conversations, this time about weekend plans, as if nothing had happened. But I wasn't finished. When the waiter returned with the slip, I signed it slowly, deliberately, and set my pen down with a sharp click. Then I cleared my throat. "You know," I began, my voice steady, "this is interesting. I sat here tonight invisible. Not one of you asked me about my life. Not one of you offered me a seat at your conversations. But the second the bill came, suddenly I became the most important person at this table." The chatter died instantly. Forks froze midair. My cousins stared at me, mouths half open, as though I'd spoken a language they couldn't understand. I leaned forward, folding my hands. "It cost me $2,500 to buy your attention tonight. Not respect, not love, just a moment where you all finally saw me. And do you know what? It's worth it. Because now, I know exactly where I stand." A stunned silence filled the room. My cousin Mark fumbled for words. "That's not fair." I cut him off. "Fair? You think ignoring me all night was fair? You think treating me like a stranger in my own family was fair? Number. This," I tapped the signed bill, "this is fair. You ate, you drank, you laughed without me, and now you've let me pay for the privilege of being ignored." The color drained from faces around the table. Aunt Denise whispered, "We didn't mean—" But I raised a hand. Don't tell me you didn't mean it. You did, and you showed me exactly who you are." The room was heavy with shame. Some looked away, some fidgeted with their napkins. For the first time that evening, I wasn't invisible. I was undeniable. I stood gathering my things. "Enjoy the meal. It's the last one I'll ever buy for you." With that, I walked out, leaving behind a table full of silent, guilty faces. And as the door closed behind me, I realized something powerful. Sometimes paying the bill isn't about generosity. It's about closing a chapter. The night after the reunion, my phone lit up with messages. Some cousins sent quick apologies. "Sorry if we made you feel left out." Others tried to soften what happened. "We didn't realize we were ignoring you." But none of those words could erase the sting. For years, I had been patient. I showed up, brought food, lent a hand, never asked for much. And in return, I was treated like background noise until money was involved. That $2,500 bill had been the price of clarity. Days passed, and my sister finally called. Her voice was quieter than usual. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "Yes," I replied. "I did. Because if I hadn't, you'd all still pretend nothing was wrong." She was silent for a long time before admitting, "You're right. We've been unfair. We've treated you like you didn't matter." The truth in her words both hurt and healed. Hurt because it was real. Healed because at least she finally said it. I didn't attend the next family gathering. They sent photos, tried to coax me with cheerful captions, but I stayed home. Not out of anger, but out of peace. For once, I chose myself. And something interesting happened. Slowly, the tone of their messages changed. Less bragging, more asking. How are you? Do you want to meet for coffee? Little steps, small gestures, maybe genuine, maybe guilt, but steps nonetheless. I realized then that sometimes it takes a bold act to shake people awake. That bill wasn't just money. It was a mirror, showing them their own behavior. But here's what mattered most. I didn't need their approval anymore. I didn't need their chatter or their validation. I had given myself something far greater than their attention. I had given myself dignity. The $2,500 was gone, yes, but what I gained was priceless. Clarity, peace, and the freedom to stop chasing people who didn't value me. Family should be about love, not hierarchy, about inclusion, not exclusion. And if they had to learn that lesson through the sting of a restaurant bill, then so be it. When I look back now, I don't regret it. That night taught me that being invisible hurts, but being seen only for your wallet hurts worse. And in walking away, I reclaimed the only recognition that truly matters, the one I give myself. In the end, the reunion taught me something money could never buy: perspective. I went in hoping to feel connection, and I walked out with clarity. Yes, I paid a $2,500 bill, but what it bought me was truth. My family showed me who they were, and I showed myself that I was worth more than their silence. Sometimes the price of being seen is steep, but sometimes it's the only way to remind people, and yourself, that dignity can't be ignored. So let me ask you, have you ever been overlooked by your own family or friends, only for money or responsibility to suddenly make you visible? How did you handle it? Share your story below and stay tuned for more tales where respect, not money, takes center stage.